Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom. How's everybody doing out there today? Today we have our second day, our second installment of the Young and the Fearless, aka We Are Next. Not we got next, but we are next. And I'm not talking about me. I'm actually talking about the young people, the young panelists that we have. We have some that are going to join us a little bit later. We have a couple that are right here in the background. We have representing a young married couple. We have Jalen and Kai. Anything you guys want to say before we get started, Jalen and Kai?
No, Jalen normally had the words to get everything started.
Yeah.
She over here pushing the phone on me.
She's saying you have to lead her. She wants you to lead her. So
Okay,
yeah. Okay. I
we
hear
good.
you.
We
I hear you. Now you got that bass. I'll do that. I'll do that.
good.
Yeah, go ahead, baby. Show 'em what you got.
No. Pause. Now, listen. This is Uncle Sean. This is not the formal space. We're gonna have fun with this. So if you see me being goofy or whatever, it's because we're having fun. This is not our typical, in a sense, class or whatever. I definitely want to hit it from you all's perspective. So there may be some things that I know you guys do that I do because I think it's fun. I think you guys are the funnest age group. That being said, I have representing my single ladies population. My single ladies population. I have a beautiful, wonderful, lovely niece, the daughter of our Moray and our Morah, Brianna. Anything you want to say before we get popping?
I just want to say, hey, family, I'm looking forward to tonight.
Amen. All praises, all praise. I think somebody joined us down low. I'm about to bring them up on the stage. Okay. Representing our single male population, the single male from a single male perspective. I call him the upgrade, the new improvement. He's my son. The 2.0, the better version, the better model. Anything you want to say before we get rolling, son?
No, but what's good, y'all? Hope y'all having a blessed night. That's all.
Oh, all praises. Well, with that being said, this topic I did not pick, but I was very intrigued by the topic. Very intrigued by the topic because I think it, from you all's perspective, from you all's mindset, it definitely starts to capture the journey. But before we get going, I do want to acknowledge that I see Sister Tasha is in the building, in the house with the precepts on deck. I look forward to any interaction or feedback or input that she may have. If she has some young people with her, feel free to have them join or post questions. We have our young daughter out in, I'm gonna say out west. I don't want to give her location away just in case she's not comfortable with that. But Malaysia, welcome Malaysia. Glad to have you. And anybody else who has joined us, please feel free to come in, comment, like, subscribe, slap a like on it. Costs you nothing. Wipe your feet at the door. Come and introduce yourself. We definitely want to have fun. We're not going to be formal. Probably the most formal part of this is going to be the beginning of it because everything has, in a sense, what we have is a scriptural foundation, But I definitely want to talk, or we want to hit things from the perspective of the people who are next, not they got next. They have no choice. The Most High selected them, called them out. With that being said, the verses that we're going with, as it pertains to the topic discipleship, Matthew 18, verses 1 through 6. Matthew 18, verses 1 through 6. And it says, at the same time came the disciples unto Yahushua, saying, who is the greatest in the kingdom of the Shamayim, or in the kingdom of heaven? And Yahushua called a little child unto him and set him in the midst of them, set the child in the middle of them, right? And he said, verily I say unto you, except ye be converted and become as a little child, ye shall not enter into the kingdom of the Shamayim, or in the kingdom of heaven. Whosoever, I'm about to do a word study on heaven. That's a whole nother thought. Forgive me. Sometimes things just jump out to me. I know Brianna, your dad goes through this a lot. I need to go back and look at that. So that's going to be something that might be a teaching coming near you. Verse 4, let me stay focused. Whosoever therefore shall humble himself as this little child, the same is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whosoever shall receive such a little child in my name receiveth me. Verse 6. But whosoever shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it was better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck and that he were drowned in the depths of the sea. With that, we stop right there. The word says that the greatest among us will be like a child that receives like a little child receiving the kingdom of heaven. So you all hear this verse, or you all hear these verses, or you all have a mindset of discipleship. And it's interesting because the disciples, the ones that are walking with Christ, the ones that are walking with the King, they are receiving his instruction, his wisdom, his counsel, but they ask him a question to get further understanding. And this was the understanding that the King came up with, that in order for you to be greatest in the kingdom, you have to be like a child. Any thoughts on that from you all's perspective?
See, yeah, I mean, in the, on the this um passage in general, I gotta say, I had to turn it to the ESV for me to actually be able to understand it, because
Absolutely.
I guess it was really just more so the wording of it. But
Would you like me to go
basically,
back and read in the ESV, or we good?
well, no, I'm good. I'm good now because I did read it beforehand.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, what I took from it was, unless you basically change the way that you. Well, he says you convert yourself as a child, right? So if you live yourself, like a child is, um, meaning like you kind of like simplify, like you don't necessarily like you submit. You know what I'm saying? You would submit
Mm-hmm.
to the father a lot differently than you would uh, like a child submits to an adult, or like a child submits to their parents. So,
Mm-hmm.
once you just have that natural submission to you for the father and doing what he, calls you to do, then you will be able to, truly inherit the kingdom of the Most High.
Mm-hmm. That's an excellent start. Anyone else? Kyle Pitch is hot right now.
Yeah, he pretty much hit it on the nail. Like, like there's nothing much more to I can add, but to like, come humbly, and to come, like you said, come as a child, like, as a, like have a mind of a child, because like as we get older, we kind of not tend to see things as a child or have that all moments in life, but there's never those all moments in life with the Most High never stop, and that's what I appreciate. So
Mm. Mm. Those all moments as a child. That's interesting. We got to go back and unpack that. Anyone else?
I agree with what Kai said. I feel like he hit that on the nail, so I can't really add much more to that. I agree with what him and Sean said.
Mm-hmm. Jalen, anything you want to add before we move forward? Or Kai pretty much done skint most of the meat off the bone on that. Y'all kind of digging at that.
yeah, he pretty much hit on the nail. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that, because the King uses the analogy as a child. Think about you all's own personal journey in this, because we're talking about you guys are the young and the fearless. Again, we're talking about a generation. You guys are growing up in a generation basically of the YNs and the bad Bs, but yet you guys are standing for and representing something different as it concerns the matter of discipleship, why do you think the king went this way? Or further, would you like to further expound or elaborate on the fact that the king said to, in a sense, be like a child? Like, how does that equate to you all's own personal journey?
Okay. I think that like as you become an adult and you really you start to absorb the things of the world and you come to your own understanding of what's wrong and what's right.
Mm,
uh, and then it's hard to not question. Like, I mean, I guess it's a good thing to always question whether something is wrong or right when it comes to the scriptures. But um I feel like in a way we kind of like would justify something that is not necessarily justified with scripture. You know what I'm saying? Like you would come to
mm-hmm,
your own understanding and not of the Father's understanding, like it would say in the scripture.
mm. So, as I guess in a sense, from your standpoint, you're talking about a child has like a natural curiosity in the
Yes.
questioning. Or?
I'm saying that, okay, when you're not I guess submitting yourself like as a child, or you're not being like a
Mm-hmm.
child, right? You would kind of be overstepping what the father might
Mm,
have his opinion on something might be, or the scriptures will say something about how you should move. But a child takes what they learn, and that's what they know. You know what I'm saying?
mm.
And
So
I
a
and that
child is not. So you're saying if I'm trying to, because you're trying to unpack what you mean it. And shout out to Miles. I see you, young KD's in the chat. Miles is in the chat.
Hey,
Shout out.
Miles.
And I'm not trying to put you in the hot seat. I wanted to be your words. So you're talking about whereas we as grown-ups, and you're right, I believe, if this is what you're saying, when
uh,
you have a grown-up mindset, like your uncle is closing in on 50, and you have a grown-up mindset, we kind of tend to be stuck in our ways, feel like we know what we know, have the answers.
right,
So we're more apt to want to rebut, more apt to want to challenge. Whereas
absolutely,
there's I think as Sister Tasha said it up here earlier, uh, receiving the kingdom as a child, she said humble as a child, no matter what age. Yeah, we have to stay childlike because there's a natural submissiveness to parental authority from a childlike standpoint.
right.
Anybody else besides Kai? Kai's jumping out there. Anybody care to speak to this?
Nah, yeah, I pretty much agree. Like what y'all said, like when you get older, like you said, you get more rigid, you get more stuck in your ways. You start to
Mm,
think you know what's right, and like the on what Uncle Gene always says, like we're forever learning and having that
yeah.
mindset because you never know where the Most High is going to take you, and you never know what way He's going to come because you know
Did anybody? Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
So, hey, Sean, son, for whatever reason you went out.
I look it out.
Yeah, now you can be heard. Now you can be heard.
I don't know where I left off. Where do I leave off at?
You might as well start over because we lost you early.
Okay. Now, but what I was basically saying is like, when you come to the Most High, you got to come like in the child mindset because a lot of times when you get older, you kind of get rigid in your ways and your experiences and things of that nature kind of give you a skewed mindset as if you were a child. You kind of have this, like, you kind of have this, like you said, this curiosity, this optimistic mind, this man, anything is kind of possible, and this, faith, you have a lot of faith as a kid because you're like, whoa, like this is cool, that is cool, and
Mm,
have that mindset with the Most High. You'll never exhaust him because the fact of, like he says, his ways are not our ways, and then we'll never know where he's really going to go because he comes from so many different directions in our life and so many different yada moments, which means like experiences. So
mm.
that's what I'm. That's my thought. I yield.
That's interesting that you talk about from a youth perspective or a childlike perspective, having those instances, those moments where you believe anything is possible. I know for me, I can only speak from my experience when you talk about from a child or what it meant to be a child. One thing that I did always have that feeling like my dad was my first hero. My dad was like a superhero. And so I'm like, when I used to argue with other people and they'd be like, my dad is going to lift for 100 pounds and beat your dad up. And I'd be like, my dad is going to lift for 1,000 pounds and beat your dad up. I mean, we would say ridiculous stuff in our belief and our faithfulness and our belief in our fathers. And so to your point, I thought that was quite interesting that you said that, because the father literally shows up and he literally says stuff like, nothing's impossible to me. So if we have one father in our life that says that, that is actually true from the standpoint of the Most High. What are your thoughts? You talk about the yada, the experiences with the Most High.
Oh, pause it. Okay, I know I've been talking a lot, but I guess this is a
Yeah, I want y'all to talk a
this
lot.
is
I
a
guess if you're gonna carry it, you're gonna carry it. I think
so
your squad to get your back. Go ahead, you good?
I know you've seen it. I know Jalen probably haven't seen it, but the movie with Adam Sandler, I can't remember what the name is.
You
Waterboy,
know me, huh?
Waterboy, right? You
Oh,
know, Bobby Boucher.
what a boy!
His mindset is very childlike, right? It's like in the sense
Yeah.
that okay, my mama says X, Y, and Z about the alligators. My mama says I
Mm,
can't play football because this happens. So like
mm-hmm.
when you have that childlike mindset, it's just like uh I don't and I think it's weird, really weird to say like a childlike mindset, being that we are adults, but what I'm saying is when you submit yourself to the father as his child, you really take on the values that he wants you to versus being disobedient or being rebellious in the sense because once you get older you kind of adapt those types of qualities, you know what I'm saying,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
after you have so many experiences and you live of the world and you live of the of the spirit, dibble and dabble in between those and you become naturally rebellious versus a child who's humble and who's naturally obedient for the most part. I mean, I think children are also curious and they're going to find, their ways, but I think adults are a little bit more, like Sean said, rigid.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Yeah. Anyone else want to add to what Kai said?
This one's a little tough for me.
Go ahead, expound. We're talking from your life, your experiences, and you know what's interesting. What you saying that because you've had a unique journey as it pertains to even getting to this point. I'm sorry, as it pertains to getting to this point in your life, um, which is why I would love, like, even from your perspective, because I know that you tended to be one that, for lack of a better term, you moved in a sense in an independent way, or sometimes to the beat of your drum, and so maybe your childhood experiences were different, and that it carried you to this point, but you're at a different point in your walk. If that makes sense, what I just said.
Yes, sir, it does. I
Yeah.
think maybe even listening to everybody talk, maybe I don't understand exactly what the scriptures is saying when he says to have a childlike mind. I don't think I
Hmm.
I don't think I'm I don't think I understand, and that's why I'm having a hard time giving
Hmm.
my experience.
Hmm. Well, when you talk about a childlike mind, one of the things that they talked about was there's a ingrained humility to the parents. There is a curiosity. There is a unwavering belief, or unwavering trust in their parents, and so sometimes if that was never, if that wasn't readily or steadily modeled, some young people may not have that kind of mindset or that kind of temperament or that kind of experience. And so, with that being said, some youth tend to be parentalized before they get a chance, which is unfair.
Mm.
It's unfair to some youth. And so when Christ is coming to us and he's saying to us to receive the kingdom as a child, it's based on the fact that some children, or most children, should have that normal childhood experience where the guidance, the nurturing, the discipline was there, the training was there from a mom and a dad. And because it may not have been there with some children, that's why it may be a tough topic or a tough issue to handle as far as when we talk about discipleship. Because remember, we're talking about discipleship, and the
Mm.
disciples are asking who is the greatest in the kingdom. And Christ is saying during this time, he's saying, if you receive the kingdom as a child, you will be great in the kingdom. There's nothing greater than a child, but that's based on a child that is in ideal circumstances, ideal situations. To speak to your generation, which is remarkable to your standpoint, let me just acknowledge some key factors and maybe kind of set the tone for what we're talking about. You guys are endeavoring on a walk to live for Christ, to live for the King, but yet many times, in many instances, you guys didn't experience the same thing that those kids that Christ was talking about in their days experience. Well, when you talk about this generation, you guys were primarily raised by a lot of, not all cases, but a lot of children have broken homes. Your parents came from broken homes. Your parents came from dysfunction. Your parents came from abusive households. There was no such thing in many instances with my generation. I'm talking about my generation, where it was two-parent households. It was between the 60s and 70s, that was a matter that was on the rise. So now when we get to your generation, that everybody's clowning, that everybody's criticizing, that everybody's putting down, we say to your generation is hopeless. Well, what generation did they used to say that about before they got to your generation? They said that about my generation. And so to get to the point, what I'm saying is you have a quote unquote labeled hopeless generation who grew up with broken homes, grew up with lack of parental stability, now trying to parent children when we don't know what that looks like. And so you may have had episodes in your childhood where it was chaotic, where it doesn't look what um anything like what this is talking about, or anything like what a normal childhood would denote. And so, yeah, you may have questions about that. And now what you're saying is you want to walk in a journey and in a way that does not reflect the societal norms that are going on with your peers who grew up in the same messed up environment you grew up in. That has to be a challenge.
I see.
Yeah. Anybody, I said a lot. Anybody care to maybe talk about that and elaborate on that as to when we talk about discipleship, why it is that you guys feel like you're choosing to step out in a way that makes you more isolated, more of a target in a generation that, has been deemed hopeless and destitute?
Can y'all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I feel like it's one of those things where when you're a kid, especially when you feel like when you're raised in the church, but also when the Most High has practically called you since you were a child, I feel like you've always been kind of used to being the outsider, the outcast, the one that stood out, regardless of no matter what you did. You could have been doing exactly what the same things you were doing, but it feels like it doesn't. I'm not saying like you don't have a choice, is what I'm trying to say. I feel like you're used to it. I feel like when the Most High has already called you, because he's if you're called, he's been calling you since we were in the womb. But I feel like we've already had experiences where it's like, dang, I always feel like people stare at me, look at me different, and people will even say, you're different, and you, like I said, you could be doing the exact same thing as everybody else, but
Mm-hmm.
to purposely, to make it purpose in your heart to be different for the Most High, it's a different type of feeling, because you're used to it already, but now it's like, now you do have a target on your back. Now your perspective is always going to be different or go against the grain, especially when you're in spaces like, me and my brother do content creating, and we profess, Christ and everything, and our viewpoints on, social norms or what's trending are usually different for most people, and 9 times out of 10 people respect it, but then you have those few that go against it, and then you're trying to, you have to stay strong. Like, you're like, oh, how do I stay strong, and then you do. But sometimes nobody, I feel like we have to talk about how sometimes it's hard sometimes, or that feeling when you're a kid again, where you're like, dang, here I am standing now, here I am different, here I am not being like everybody else, even though that's something you're used to. it's
Mm-hmm.
it's I feel like when you make it your purpose, or when you're, you know being about it, I feel like it does kick it up a notch, and it brings like a bit of like, you don't want to stand out, but you have to. So that's my two.
Mm. So from your standpoint, Imani, thank you. That's my oldest child, Imani, and she's definitely kind of had a tough way dealing with me as a dad. I was probably toughest on her at the beginning than all my kids, and I think it shifted to my son. But um, I know I was exceptionally hard on Imani because I was so intentional as a dad to try to raise a godly child without really having a wisdom as a young dad on how to do that. Um, and so, speaking in that way, when you talk about the issue of discipleship, being a disciple, being trained, being taught, what does that look like, or what does that mean to you all? Whether it was a good experience, bad experience, what is the point of discipleship? Why is that so important to you all?
I guess from a natural male standpoint, um, like as I get older, you know, you get to a point where I kind of like understood the mindset of getting older and of a male, especially like no matter kind of what you do, a man or a man is going to have to do. He's the people who make the man, who the people around the man really make the man. So in a sense, it's like there's always going to be people looking to you, and there's always going to be people kind of like who look for you and look for you for something. So when I got older, I was like, dang, like Imani, like what we all said, especially what Imani said, of being different and kind of being called to kind of be a leader. It definitely was like, okay, like if I'm going to impact people, if I'm going to have, a certain influence, I want to do it right. I don't want to do it like any type of way that I'm not supposed to.
Hmm.
So, like you said, like I think about the part of treating us how you want to be treated, but also like continue to put yourself in that person's shoes, or man, like not shutting up my bowels of compassion when I see a person who went through the same similar experience that I did, and it's like, hey, like if I have a wisdom or if they come to me, and I will gladly give that understanding, so you don't have to go through or show you what was the right and the wrong in that current experience that they went through, and then I went through.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Anyone else?
Um, I
Go ahead.
I think for me, um, as I got older, I realized that, as a kid, you kind of just clueless to things. Like, you hear what people tell you and the warnings that they tell you, and most of the time you get in trouble and there's somebody to bail you out, like physically, like your mom, your dad, maybe a teacher, counselor. And then, you get out of high school, and sometimes you move out of your parents' house, sometimes you don't, but you gain more independence and you realize that eventually, if you, live to be in your older ages, you're going to be on your own. You're going to have what your parents taught you, what you've experienced in life, and then you're left to yourself. And then
Mhm.
you realize that death is a real thing, and that at any time you can experience it if you're, not sorry about that, I got a phone call. If you're not living for the most high, or you're caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. And for me, it's like I just know that I want to see this thing that the most high talks about in the Bible. I want to be with him for eternal life. I want to
Mhm.
have everything that he has to offer, because people die, experiences die, and you're left alone, but he never leaves you. He's always there. And when you feel like you're alone and you feel like everything that you've known has changed, the most high is there and has not changed. And for
Mhm.
me, that's why I want discipleship. That's why I want it, because I'm realizing that what I'm in right now is temporary. My kids will grow old. My husband and I will get old. My mom will be gone. My uncles and aunts will be gone. And it's just me. And I want to
Mhm.
make sure that I'm entwined with the Most High and His teaching, so that when it's all over, that I'm welcome into his kingdom and I can experience the rest of whatever. I still don't fully understand, but the rest of my eternity with him and not in torment. That's why I want it. And that's what it means to me.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, and also, I guess for me to just touch on that as well, I think that the importance of discipleship.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, we lost you, Kai.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The importance of discipleship is, knowing that you're. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we
Hello,
can.
hello.
Mhm.
Can
Yeah.
you? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
we can hear you.
Yeah, I was
Hmm.
saying the importance of discipleship is that you got to understand that you're leading by example. And just in my experiences in life, like I'm the oldest child. I'm also a husband and a father, so I understand that what I do trickles down, right? And my experiences trickle down, and even my shortcomings trickle down, and people see that kind of stuff. So it's important that I'm following the examples of Christ and what I'm and who I'm living for. And also that ties into having that converting yourself onto a child, or being like a child, in the sense that that like you said, you submit to that kind of leadership, right? You don't
Hmm.
question. You don't when you're a child, you don't question the leadership that you're under. Like, you don't. I mean, the teacher at school is going to tell you something, and you just follow it because that's what you were taught. Or your parent, it may tell you something, and I mean, all kids are a little bit different, but for the most part, you go by what you're taught. You put your dang, what I was trying to say. Well, you let's say, just for instance, right? Like, someone might be taught to eat with their left hand, and that's all they know is their left hand, left hand, left hand. They wouldn't even think about, oh, I could do this with my right hand too. But
Right.
yeah, with that said, like, it's important knowing that you know now that I am an adult, I have to kind of submit myself to Christ, so that I know how to walk, and it also trickles down to my kids and my siblings, and the people that look up to me, or see me as someone that is following Christ.
Right. It's interesting that you guys are talking about you guys, because you all have a eclectic, and what I mean by eclectic, I mean like a diverse experience as far as being discipled, and you guys are definitely speaking to the end result. I love the question that's in the chat, because it's actually a question or a talking point that was going to be my actual first talking point, that Sister Tasha is pushing it. So we hear Sister Tasha. That's why I highlighted it. There's a question to the floor. What does disciple or discipleship mean to you? And it's okay to say, I don't know if you don't know. But for those that may have an idea, I want to hear what discipleship or to be a disciple means to you.
Um, well, I guess, well, the word disciple, like it means, disciplined ones. But I guess what it means to me, it's just about like, I guess, if I were to put myself in a disciple shoes, or we're pretty much all disciples in a sense, but like in assembly. But if I were to, have my own, I would definitely, try to walk in the treat others how you want to be treated, and not only have disciples who I guess if I had disciples and they look towards me, but I want them to hold me accountable of what my what I can't work on, and what I say, have me hold me accountable and have me stand on what I say too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in discipleship, it's about like brotherhood. I strengthen you, you strengthen me. Bring your brother or your sister's keeper. I think that's discipleship, of moving in one mind and having one goal, and really helping each other and building each other.
Mm-hmm. So to your point, then, and I'm going to get everybody else a chance to speak on this. I kind of want to reel you back in because you're right. Disciple means discipline one, but usually when you talk about a disciple doesn't have disciples yet. Disciples are being discipled. What does it mean when you guys understand discipleship? What does it mean to be discipled, and what does that look like to you from a personal standpoint? You're right. There's a brotherhood aspect, there's a relational aspect, but what is it in relationship to?
Um, I think.
You're like, oh,
Oh,
go
go ahead.
ahead, Bree.
Oh, I would like to be it's surrendering your own will, and leaning on the Most High's, and keeping Him first, and walking with Him, and keeping His word. To me, I feel like that's probably what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Same, like
Good, good.
following him, um, walking in the ways that he did. Um, yeah, walking in the ways that he did, following him, striving to be like him in a way.
Mm-hmm. So with discipleship or being disciple, or understand what it means. Yeah, it means discipline one, walking and learning the ways of the Most High. Who do we learn that discipleship from?
I
What?
was saying the actual disciples, right? Because I mean, if we want to follow Christ, we got to follow the people that were following him at the time that he was actually doing everything that he was doing, and spreading the word that he was spreading. Because I feel like it's hard to be a disciple now, but just I can only imagine how it was like.
Wait, you said what?
I said we're we like I
No,
said
we learned them. We learned it.
we learn how to be disciples based upon the actual like disciples of the Bible, like the people that were following Christ at the time that he was actually doing everything. Because if you think it's hard now, just imagine how it was, when people were trying to literally trying to kill Christ. Like this was a everyday thing, and they were
Mm-hmm.
having to just persevere and just trust, that he, he would do what he say, and he trusts that nothing will go wrong. And I feel like, yeah, I feel like that's kind of where you have to really, dial in on. Because I mean, it's written now. It wasn't written back then. It was just following strictly off your faith.
Mm-hmm.
No, I agree with Kai, because I mean, they said these men have families, and they had to literally drop everything and truly follow Christ and believe in what he was teaching, and what he was showing them. So, yeah,
Right.
it,
It's interesting, y'all going all the way back to their experience, but what is your experience? It's interesting, you guys. I really feel like you guys are really missing the key piece because you're right. You guys are being discipled. I hear you, Aunt Diddy. You being disciple too, and Diddy.
I'm learning too.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, Bashan,
Disciples.
spit it out.
Yeah.
Spit. I'm trying to see if maybe y'all can like put two and two together.
Mashiach? Are we following him?
Technically, but yeah, the goal is to get you there. But there's a way.
Um,
There's some discipling that's going on. You should
you
be learning
guys?
from. I thought so.
You guys? I was
I
getting there.
honestly thought so. I'm like, I
Oh
don't know
well,
You
what.
yeah.
guys.
Yeah, I thought it was.
I didn't know. I thought we would just maybe you just feel like teaching all these Sabbath lessons just to teach them.
Nah. I mean, I
But
already knew. Yeah, no, yeah.
You guys.
I thought it was kind of. I
yeah,
thought it was kind of obvious.
no. But I think when you talk about
We
the
thought you
journey of
thought you were talking
discipleship,
about the Bible. That's why we were
yeah,
so
we're
off.
talking
Yeah,
about the
yeah.
Bible.
That's
Get all the way back.
We're talking about the Bible.
he's off the way back.
But remember, you guys are leaders. Now, this is discipleship. You guys are
Right.
leaders. You guys have to talk from a standpoint. There may be people who come across this that don't understand or know your journey.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
You see what I'm saying? You got other people who are part of our group or part of our assembly. They may have young people who may see this and they got to hear what it is that you guys are talking about. So maybe they'll understand. Yeah. Okay. So, like in our experience, like when you talk about Moray, when you talk about myself, I don't know if Suka, you want to chime in. You're in the background. Did you want to chime in with this one too, big brother? We had many people who were discipling us, or we were disciples too. Like from my personal experience, I had a father in the ministry. His name was Pastor Sinkfield. My grandmother, Rosetta Evans, she was the one who showed me Christ in the beginning. She was I was a disciple basically to her. She was a teacher to me. My father, my dad, Reggie. Then we were under Pastor, or Elder Sewell. Me and Gene were under Elder Sewell. Then we were under this woman named Anicia Brown. Then ultimately we ended up under Grams, and we were disciples, learning this way, learning this walk, submitting to instruction, submitting to teaching, submitting to doctrine. And so as we got older, from especially even from you guys' age, and we were called to this walk, those that would emulate or lead us to Christ, or we would perceive them to lead us to Christ, we would submit to their authority in the spirit and try to glean and learn all that we could learn from them when you talk about being disciple. And so I think when you guys are talking from a standpoint of discipleship, who you're learning from and what it is that you're learning. Shalom, Sister Malaysia. Malaysia saying good night to you all. Who you're learning from and what you're learning, I think it's important to understand that, because this is your experience. The apostles, they had, okay, you're right. The apostles had the best experience. They had the king himself. Unfortunately, you guys got to settle for Uncle Gene, myself, Uncle Gerald, but we're doing the best we can to try to imitate the king for you guys, so that way you guys can learn of the king and pass that down to your children. We clear?
We're clear.
Yeah.
Nah, yes, sir. I mean, y'all. I feel like y'all do a great job. The fact that we're all forever learning, so and that y'all have that mindset too. So y'all doing a pretty good job.
So when you talk about the challenges, thank you, son. But when you talk about the challenges or the journey of discipleship, what are some of the challenges or difficulties that you all feel like you face in learning this way, especially if it's from, I guess, teachers that you may not be vibing with all the time or connecting with all the time, or maybe there's times when we teach some stuff you don't understand. What is discipleship, or what is your experience of discipleship looking like, especially in this world, in this day and time, where you're trying to learn about the king, you're trying to learn about the most high, and trying to walk this thing out in this world?
I guess for me, sometimes it's like the lack of like, losing faith and sometimes losing trust in what you're doing it for, and you know
Mm,
trying to not
mm,
trying not to focus on instant gratification from, like, you can say God says you're gonna get this and this, and then you're like, oh yeah, 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 for sure. Sometimes as a human you think that's supposed to happen instantly, you think that's supposed to happen like right then and there, and so
mm,
sometimes that makes your faith waver sometimes, and your trust is like a little shaky, and you have to like really power through and be like, you know what, you're the most high, you're God, you make things happen because you're him. And I have to really just trust that, I have to have faith in that, I have to continue to really rely on that. And sometimes I think
mm,
that's hard to do as a disciple, when you see the world doing things differently, where you see you're doing it a different way, and you see the ways that's working for everybody to get to the point you're trying to get to, and you're like,
mm,
dang, I know that I could do it the way they're doing it, but I'm doing it this way. And so
mm,
it's tough. It's sometimes you're just you really gotta bury yourself and ground yourself in him. Some days you really do gotta take it up a notch. Some days you're good. Sometimes your faith is on high and your trust is on high. But then there's those days where you're like, I gotta really remind myself of who the most high is, and why I'm here, and why I do the things, why I'm doing what I'm doing, because sometimes it be hard. Sometimes it really,
mm,
you know, you lose your strength in it sometimes.
mm, mm.
No, I definitely agree with Monty. Like you said, and it's funny. I'm glad that you said the scripture to us. I think yesterday, 2 days ago, where you say, doing, like, talking about, don't lose faith in well doing, because it is eventually is going to pay off. And like you might say, yeah, like you see everybody, like, doing it another way or getting it how they live in. It's like, dang, but I gotta, not dang, but you do, like you said, not dang sometimes, because I'm
Yeah,
like,
no,
dang,
let's keep
like,
it real. Yeah,
yeah,
sometimes
like
it's
I'm,
dang.
because like I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for that I'm waiting for Yahweh to be Yahweh, and I
Hmm.
have to continue to press towards the market, not lose faith and not lose my strength, and it's like, because like you said, sometimes you see others around you, like, dang, like, hey, like, like, dang, like, dang, like, they're probably feeling that too, and you gotta continue to stay like faithful and strong and steadfast, because you know, like it's the right thing to do, and you gotta just believe, and yet, like Imani said, your faith does waver sometimes, and your strength
Hmm.
does feel depleted sometimes, and that's when we continue to look towards the Most High to renew our strength and renew our faith, and to have us have our to elevate, to keep us strong, so yeah, I definitely agree, because sometimes, man, I'll be like, oh my God, like, only if I could do this, but you know, you got to do it the right way.
Hmm. Anyone else? Because y'all brought out two key themes in that, and it's interesting because you guys have faced a unique challenge in the area of discipleship as it concerns being youth. Because we thought we grew up in a shake and bake microwave society, but you guys really are in the shake and bake microwave society from a standpoint. I know you guys had like the little Snapchat and stuff, the little 6 second reels, and people got rich off of those things. And you guys got like these little short videos. You could just watch little short videos all day and stuff like that. And you seeing people that are out doing whatever they want to do, making whatever money they want to make off of it, you know, and it looks real good. It looks attractive, but yet you have these teachings that are going on from your uncles and in some cases your fathers and stuff like that. And you're being told in the midst of a society that says you have instant gratification here if you go this way, but we're teaching character of the most high, delayed gratification, patience, self-control. What are you guys' thoughts on having that mind to endure and believe that the Most High is going to come through on what He promised if you stay this way.
Um, I just think my mindset towards it is, like even what Jalen was saying earlier, like the end goal, the goal of having that eternal
Mm,
life, and, the things that are, and let's keep it, let's keep it, here, the things that are promised in this lifetime, the blessings and things of that nature, you know. And like it says, a good name is rather chosen than riches. I'd rather say that I did it with the Most High than, oh, I got it this way, I got it that way. To be in somebody's debt that doesn't necessarily care about me. You feel me? Like, that's the blessing of it. Like, man, Yah took me through and had me go this way, but I can say, me, he helped me build this brick by brick. That
mm,
I can say, like, yeah, this wasn't made by man's hands. This was made by the Most High. A testimony like that. I feel like that's more precious than anything, to be like, yeah, man, I did it this way, and to encourage somebody to follow the Most High. Like, yeah, bro, it's gonna maybe take a while. Yeah, it's gonna maybe take you through the ringer and some trials and tribulations, but bro, the blessing is the blessing is, more than that, and the fact of, like you said, not even, and also, the part of knowing that side of the Most High is also part of the blessing too. The fact of, he's gonna come through. This is like, you can tell somebody, and you kind of break every single, thing down of how, which way he came, and you can say that you experienced the Most High in that way.
mhm,
Not just
mhm,
the, you know physical, blessing, but also the spiritual blessing of it, of saying, I had this experience with the Most High. you know
mm, mm. Anyone else care to add to?
No, baby.
Yeah. I think
Because it's too. Oh, go ahead, Kyle. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say I think he was pretty in alignment and what I would think as well. Um, and going back to what you say, like especially like in our generation, we do have a lot of like access to technology, and everybody's life is on display. So like in a way, it's almost kind of like everybody's kind of like boastful. You know what I mean?
Mm,
There's not a whole lot of humility shown online, and you kind of have to decipher what's of the Father and what's not,
mhm,
because obviously, especially being young, and wanting to make something of yourself, it's hard to not like aspire to be something that you would see online because it's in your face all the time.
mm,
So, but yeah, it's you also you when you are doing something like that, you have to take into consideration how, like, okay, if you setting a goal for yourself to do X, Y, and Z, right, whatever you might see online, and you have to understand that your walk is with the Father, and that it's not going to be as easy as everybody else is. It's not going to be a one shot, one goal you reach overnight. It's and then also you can't just put your focus on the like the riches of it. The uh I mean I think the fruit of the Father goes deeper than just financials.
mhm,
You know,
mhm.
I have children. I hear them in the background right now.
They're beautiful. They're beautiful. You
But
guys are doing a heck of a job.
yeah,
Mm.
so with
You
that
too,
said,
Brianna.
my time is valuable, and the
Mm,
things that I lay my eyes upon are valuable now. Actually enjoying life, my health is valuable. So like, how much
mm,
of that are you willing to sacrifice just so you can get the financials?
mm,
So that's where I feel like the you really have to decipher like what's of the Father and what's not. It's that's just kind of where I stand on it.
mm. So it's interesting because as someone who's watching you all journey in this, I want to understand your why. Why did you? Because you're right. You guys are and during the time where I mean people let's keep it a buck. People are doing feet pics and just any old kind of way. Yeah, OnlyFans, which is only crap. I found out one of my friends is on Grinders. I don't even know what the heck Grinders
Oh
is.
my God.
You see what I'm saying? I mean,
Real
so
stuff.
people out here
That's
doing
sus.
some
That's real sus.
right
That's
bogus.
actually
Grinders ass.
crazy.
Wicked out here. It get
It's
crazy out
not
Bogus
here.
grinder.
stuff. Yes,
It get crazy out
yes.
here, bro.
So you guys are in a okay. This is okay. Like to me, it don't. I'm seeing stuff that I don't think is honestly legit talent. Like why are like the Kardashian girls? Why were they so popular? Other than I guess their look and body jobs that they got. You know what I'm saying? Like what prohibits you all from going that way? It seems like every so-called rapper today got the name Lil something, Lil this, Lil Spanky, Lil whatever, you know, and just all this stuff that's going on. I mean, I see stuff, but you guys experience it even more. Half the stuff my kids are talking about, I don't even know, don't even understand. They kind of keep dad hip. You guys probably will all know, but I honestly don't. You've chosen this way though. What keeps you to want to hold on to this way as opposed to all that other stuff? Because that's some other stuff.
Um, well, for me, I
You
see
know
that
how
a
when
lot.
you
Uh,
grow up and you be like, if you do it, you gonna get in
Wait,
Hold on, hold
trouble.
on,
That's
hold on,
why.
hold
go
on,
ahead.
I don't
hold
think
on,
she
hold
can hear
on,
you,
Wait.
Bree.
hold on, hold on, hold on.
can y'all hear me or no?
Y'all cut Brianna
Oh,
off.
Yeah, body.
Yeah,
oh, I didn't
Brianna
even
was
know she was talking.
Like, dang, Monty.
Brianna like,
I didn't even hear you. I'm so sorry. Go ahead, Brie. Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
shut up,
Okay.
punk.
dang money.
What I was saying was like looking in, like you can only see what they put out, but a lot of them seem like they aren't truly happy. It's like a lot of them, you hear a lot of
Mm,
them commit suicide, a lot of them
mm,
are on drugs, a lot of them have all these kind of distractions to try to, like, they try to find happiness, but they're missing the most important thing that gives you true happiness. So for me, it looks good, and you want those things, but then at the end of the day it's like, what does all of that mean if I'm not truly at peace, if I'm not truly happy and wanting to actually
powerful.
live for the most high? Looking at those people, I mean, they always show their flashy things, but deep down on the inside they go to bed unhappy. So for me, it's like, what's the reason for all of that?
That's why I had to add a sound effect to that. That was incredible. We're gonna go back and unpack that. Anybody else? All y'all jumped on before y'all cut Brianna off from that profound statement she just made.
Go ahead, Monty.
Sorry, Bria. I didn't even hear that she was talking. But
It's
Monty
cool.
came in with the bass.
It's cool, Monty.
I was gonna say, it's like, you ever be like, when you're a kid, you do what everybody else do, but then like you're the one to get in trouble. That's how I feel like it starts at first, where you're like, I ain't gonna do that because if I do it, it ain't gonna work for me, or God gonna make it worse for me. That's how it starts. But I
Mm,
think I think also where you just like, when you do see how it affects people, or when you do see, like what Bree said, how it, like how they're not truly happy, or you're seeing what they got to do. Sometimes
mm,
they're selling out, selling themselves short,
mm,
compromising just
mm,
to reach a certain point in their life, and it's like, huh, it makes you more grateful to wait on the Most High for everything in your life, because you don't you avoided all the pain, all the heartache, or whatever these people go through to get to where they want to be. And I know people personally, in the field that I'm in, that I'm like, looking like you're selling out a little bit. And
mm,
I'm thankful that I do it this way. It takes longer. It makes me look a little weird, or even opportunities have presented itself to me, but if it don't sound right, even when it's said, I'm not going to take it, because I know what the Most High has for me. So
mm,
that's how it keeps me from taking these opportunities, or not going where everybody else is going. And like I said, and then the moment I do it, you know, 9 times out of 10, it ain't gonna work out for me either. It might damage me more, you know. So that's
Mhm.
another thing. So that's my
Mhm.
2 cents.
Nah, to elaborate what Monty's saying, like seriously, man, when I used to get like, bro, like anything I did in class, like, oh my god, I would be the first one to get called out. And it's like, dude, like no matter what you did, like you said, it would affect more, you know. But also, also like to her point, like I'm in the same field as my sister, and the scripture that popped in my head was like it says, like, what profits a man to gain the whole soul, gain the whole world and lose his soul. So I
Mhm.
think about that, like, just seeing like how some people what they had to do, and like Bree said, just them feeling like them losing a part of themselves or their soul. People be like, oh, selling your soul is like, oh, you got to drink this, you got to drink this, you got to do that, or you got to drink this devil blood. But it's about how much are you going to give of what you value of your morals and yourself.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's not necessarily like thought about. People necessarily don't kind of value themselves no more, which is really sad. And I think in the faith, you in the faith, it does teach you how to value yourself, mentally, spiritually, physically, all it tells you how to value yourself, and I feel
Mhm.
like that once you do that, it really helps you navigate, the ways of this, because you see how much people gave up, and it's like, dang, like, was it worth it, and
Mhm.
me and Monty have like seen people when we in our field and have heard stories, and we're just like, yo, like that's really sad, and I
Mhm.
know me personally, like one thing, I really understood, when I before I started going into my field, was that the Most High, wanted me and Monty to create a space for him. And I was
Mhm.
like, okay, like I understood, like that's the difference maker, is to have a space, to make a space for him. That's what kind of keeps me going, like, because
Mhm.
it's not there, in content creation is not there, people lose, like it's not a sense of reality and transparency, you know like even what Bree said, like they show the flash, they show that, but they don't show the part where they're probably breaking down and using
Mhm.
substance abuse, to cope with what they feel after doing all these things. And it's like, man, like that's not even, you're not even happy with this life or
Mhm.
with the way you got it.
Jalen, you were going to say something earlier?
No, sir, my husband.
Oh, Kai.
Yeah, I wanted to I guess point out, both with what Monty and Sean said, just like, you know, being set apart comes with the, when you try to live the ways of the world, it just don't end up working in your favor. And that's, I feel like, is the story of my life. But um I say that to say, like, I guess in my experiences especially as like a young adult, I went and, like, I lived within the ways of the world a lot, like, especially like before me coming into the truth, and nothing ever ended up working in my favor. And it
Mhm.
once I realized that I was set apart, and I'm called for called to be different.
Mhm.
I even had like a sit down with my mom before we moved out here, and she basically broke it all down to me, and it changed the way that I look at a lot of things now. um as far as just being you called to be different. So
Mhm.
and also answering your question, we see all this craziness online, and I guess it all goes down to what things do you value, and uh how are you going to apply that into whatever adventure you take on a, I guess, a business aspect or a fun aspect or in just aspects of your life in general. Like, you have
Right.
to not only just have a belief, but you also have to actually follow it.
Yeah.
So, when you are taking into account, oh, maybe I want to sell feet pics, or maybe I want to, be a rapper and be a YN or what have you. Because trust me, I have my days. It just don't end up working in your favor. And
Mhm.
thankfully, the Most High still has me here, and He's teaching me every day. Um, and I'm moving towards what my calling is, and just becoming wiser in general. I think I feel like I have that advantage. I feel like the what you see online a lot of times is the instant gratification stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you know that that's not sustainable, it's no point in doing something like that. You're gonna be that worse off later.
Mm, excellent. It's interesting that you guys are talking about this, and you guys are making some profound statements because one thing that Brianna talked about was, peace and things like that. And I want to get at how much of that do you feel like when you talk about the upbringing, the teachings that you guys have, you know, sat under, whether by choice, because the word do say, uh, train up a child in the way that they should go, and when they get old, they will not depart from it. Do you feel like any of that was a deterrent? I know, like for me personally, especially with my grandmother had a way of messing up a lot of stuff that I was going to do. She would call me out to Clear Blue in college with a random Bible verse that spoke directly to against what I was literally about to get into and do, and it would mess me up. But do you feel like those lessons, those values that you talked about, that peace that you desired, had anything to do with things that you were raised up under or raised up on in your early childhood?
For me, definitely yes, because I remember going to church a lot, but when my mom gave us to grandma and papa, that's when I when grandma was taking out that time, we would read that word, and I would, just seeing her calling you guys and telling y'all what the Most High told her, and telling you guys things she couldn't possibly know from in her bed playing on her little games. And that's when I really got to see for myself,
Mm-hmm.
like, this is real. Like, this is
Mm-hmm.
definitely real. And then the conversations that we would have, and how she would just, like, oh, it was crazy. So for me, it definitely had to do with the experience of living with them, and how we were raised and taught, and being in church. Definitely, because I could definitely see not being in church and not growing up that way, my life would have definitely went a totally different way if y'all didn't still have a calling for me. But definitely it had to do with how I was raised, the values of what was being instilled in me.
Mm-hmm.
100% is why I'm striving like I am now, to be where I am now.
Mm.
I
Okay.
agree with Jalen. I feel like those teachings don't leave you, even though when we grew up, we go our ways, we do things we know we have no business doing, but in the back of our mind, it's always what we've learned or what was taught, and then we
That
end up
voice.
coming back to it.
Mm-hmm.
So what Jalen said, I agree with what Jalen said.
Mm-hmm.
Stop, Jalen.
Any anyone else?
No, I agree because I think as I got older, I'm like, nah, like that double life is not it. Like so it gets to a point where you stop fighting that voice and you kind of like you just listen. You start to listen because, like you said, like it wasn't no. It's like you said, like now that I'm older and a little wiser, like I'm like man, I should have just listened in the first place, But like dang, like instead of going back and forth and you're like,
Yeah.
you're trying to have your own will and it's like, bro, just do do what you was taught. Like it will go way better than trying to do it your way.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that you said that. And like I said, Brianna talked about peace. Just full transparency. When I was you guys' age or a little younger, and up until about the time Imani was brought into the picture, I know from myself personally, it was a torment. I was tormented by the fact that I had this call on my life. I was raised to be this way, but I was doing things that were contrary to what my values were. To the point, as what Brianna was talking about, when you talk about some of the other young people, I mean, I struggle with suicide thoughts of suicide, and etc. because I was miserable because it wasn't me. Like uh, I was never alone, but I was lonely. I was paranoid. Death was around every corner. I was afraid I was going to die outside of the Most High. And so these were things that would torment me at your age, where I'm like, I know that I'm not living truth. Or like people say my truth, but I don't think there's no such thing as my truth. I think there's such thing as the truth, which is the Father, and I'm supposed to conform to his truth. But I was not living the truth or being in the truth as we're talking about. And so I'm up here not representing who I truly am for the sake of showing out for people, for the sake of putting smiles on people's faces, or doing some stuff that I had no business doing. And I'm not talking about like little stuff. I mean, I was out there. I pledged a fraternity, and had a name, some reputation, and stuff like that. And so, to Brianna's point, I think a lot of people don't talk about the struggle you have outside of this way, or outside of being a quote unquote disciple of the king via the teachings that you're getting now, and how important those are to stabilizing yourself emotionally and things of that nature. I think Mania touched on that earlier. Anybody want to care to further elaborate how these teachings, or how this way or committing to discipleship has saved you from a social and an emotional standpoint?
Uh, I I don't know if anybody else is talking, but just want to make
Nobody
sure.
else is talking.
Okay. I definitely feel like, it's gonna sound redundant because, Jarena Copeland was a powerhouse in the spirit. So I think that was for a lot of us the way her role held so much
Mhm,
weight because
mhm,
like y'all said, when she says something and you ain't told a soul, and she's speaking so much because you knew that was the Most High, you knew that,
mhm,
all right, yeah, okay, he's definitely trying to get my attention. And you be good for a small amount of time because you think what she's saying or what was said is going to happen in the near future, but when it don't happen, you revert back to your mess and your shortcomings or whatever. But
mhm,
it's nothing like when you actually run into the very word that was given to you of when you don't listen. And so you hit a rock bottom and you're like,
mhm,
this is where it's at. This is what then that's when those words or that's when those lessons and that's when the things that was said comes back. You're like, oh snap, this is what she's talking about. This
mhm,
is the part where I I need to get myself together. And it hurts at first because it's like you if you keep going one way and then you eventually run into it, sometimes that is what turns you and make you live right and make you you know get to a certain point in the Most High where you're like, all right, you know what, let me try your way. Because you keep trying it your way over and over and over again, it's never going to work until you actually run into the very thing that was supposed to be you were supposed to avoid and you end up running into it. And so I
mhm,
think that was for me where it was like, oh yeah, I hit like a rock bottom. I hit like a tough part of my life right before we moved to Texas. And I was like, you know what, Texas is a new start. I'm just gonna go ahead and just really just put it all in. I said, this is horrible, embarrassing, shameful, guilty, all of it. So I'm gonna stop doing this way, and I'm gonna really like give it my all with the Most High. Really, just take it a serious step, not a half step, not that little step I used to do, but a serious step because my mental, my emotional well being is completely shot. And so
mhm,
if this is if that's what took me for me personally to really just be like, you know what, let me go ahead and put it in the Most High's hands. So even now, like even when I do run into certain things or even when little things do happen, I have the Most High to help me through it.
mhm,
Because 9 times out of 10, if I'm supposed to run into it, it's because he meant it out, he wanted me to. But then there's other times he helps me see it afar off, and so I know how to avoid it. It's different now than when I was just in sin and just running into every little problem. So
mhm.
I hope I answered your question.
You did, yeah. Good job. Anyone else?
I think yeah, I wanted to I guess hear where y'all was coming from first because me growing up, I don't feel like I had very much of like a spiritual I didn't have very much spiritual guidance, like
Mm-hmm.
very little to none. But my parents did a great job in like instilling values into me that I may not have said, like I may have not have thought immediately like that was spiritual guidance, but they did. I mean, I did go to like Catholic school my whole life, so like I always had to kind of like study the word in some sort. I mean, a lot of what I was taught, I was misled, but in the same token, I did
We all
learn.
were.
Yeah, so um I don't know. I feel like the Most High kind of blessed me with the gift of being able to discern certain things, and and maybe like I guess now that I'm looking back on it, like, I feel like I was always set apart, and even I would be in like
Mm,
my theology classes or my religion classes, and I would ask questions, and like the teacher couldn't tell me what the answer was, or they like would beat around the bush as far as their understanding.
mm-hmm,
And once I came into the truth, and I really got to like see what's you know factual and what's not. But and I feel like that kind of would lit the fire in me. Like I started just realizing what was wrong and what was not. So yeah, I mean that's kind of where I would come from. I don't think that my upbringing, I don't know how to really describe. Like I'm kind of conflicted because I don't feel like my upbringing necessary. I didn't have like prophets in my family. I didn't have like someone specifically, in their word or studying. My
mm-hmm.
family would go to church every now and again,
Mm.
uh,
That's
every blue moon
powerful.
or every Easter and every church every every day.
It kept all the pagan days, huh?
Oh yeah, we was there Easter and
Christmas,
Christmas. That's about it.
Halloween. Yeah.
But I think that I've always just had like the ability to kind of discern like what's right and what's wrong, or what's for me and what's not. So I kind of that's kind of how I navigate through life. Um,
Oh, he stopped. Did we lose him? Feel like we lost
oh,
him.
I'm sorry,
Oh,
Jalen was
okay.
getting a call.
Oh, okay. My bad. Okay.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we hear you now. Hmm.
Oh, my mom was calling Jalen's phone. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you.
Uh, what? Are y'all good? What's that noise?
Now that's you.
What is that?
I don't know.
That's you guys' phone. I don't hear. Does anybody else hear anything? I don't hear anything.
Nah,
I
I
don't
don't.
hear nothing.
I don't hear
But,
nothing.
It
the
sounds
feds,
like
the,
fireworks.
the feds is moving in on y'all, man.
They are. Everybody keep on calling my phone.
Yeah. No, but it's powerful. Your testimony is exceptionally powerful because when you talk about what we were getting at, I think we just lost them. But when you talk about Matthew 18, and especially in the case of Kai, he's really coming in with almost pretty much a clean slate from the standpoint of. Sorry, I was talking about that. Can y'all hear me, Jalen, Kai?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
I was talking about how powerful your testimony is because I feel like you're coming in, and I think as far as all you young people, especially, are coming in with an exceptionally clean slate. Especially in your case, Kai, because it's like you said, a lot of this from a quote unquote biblical standpoint may not have been modeled for you, but yet here you are, a young man raising your daughters with your wife in a godly way, in a way according to the scriptures. And I mean, the proof is in the pudding. I literally hear your wife while you're out taking care of your family. When I used to be on Facebook, your wife would post little videos, and the baby knows Bible verses. She knows more Bible verses than some grown-ups. And how old is she now?
Lonnie's 3 and Leia's 1. Should be 2 in
Yeah,
November.
3 years old. Your 3-year-old knows more Bible verses than some of these preachers I heard. So, yeah, I heard a preacher today, and I'm like, the Bible ain't saying that. I'm going crazy listening to my brother be sending me some stuff, and I'm like, he need to sit down and be taught. But I listen out loud. With that being said, um, uh, what do you feel like? And please, anybody, feel free to chime in on this question. What was it about this way that when you heard it made it stick for you? I'm asking Kai directly because, like he said, he didn't grow up, the way that a lot of us grew up. Like, let's say I had a grandmother. You guys talk about grams. You guys pretty much grew up in, when we were in Christianity, Christian homes. But in Kai's standpoint, Kai, his family wasn't really committed to the way like that. But yet, when you heard this way, what made it stick for you?
Oh man, I mean, it was a couple things, but I think, and I said this the last time. I think what stuck with me the most is when Jalen put me on to Leviticus 11,
Mm, mm,
and I'm sitting here like I done went to school almost my whole life, taking religion class every year, and we never went over this. Well, I never knew this was in the Bible. Like, I mean, it's so many books in there, but like that, like, come on now, like,
You are very handsome.
okay, we might need to wrap up soon, right? All
Yo,
praises to the Most
that
High.
came out of nowhere.
all right, bro.
All
Bro.
praises.
Oh my god! I'm
Now
sorry,
number
baby.
3 may be on the way. Let me stop. Lord, that's y'all can't do that wrong, Uncle Sean. I'll go with it. But go ahead, y'all.
But
Go
yeah,
ahead.
that Leviticus 11, and it's like that's what kind of opened up the wormhole for
Mm,
me, and just like doing more research and like just realizing like how much I'm being misled and like dive like I already knew like the I remember when I was in high school, right? They had a video on when they were selecting the Pope, and you know how
mm,
they do like the smoke in the air, and I was like, that's weird.
mm, mm.
If the smoke come up black, then that's not they move on to the next person. If the smoke come up white, okay, this is the new
Yo,
Pope.
that's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yo, the smoke should have came up black all the time, man. Cause
right.
that, I, yo, I ain't even trying to hold you up, Catholics. Y'all gotta feel some type of way about what I'm about to say, but what y'all talking over there, that junk is demonic. I don't
Oh
care what
yeah.
y'all say. So,
Mm-mm.
and
hey,
and and then we were also taught like well I've always well, we were taught this, but I've always held it with me like Catholicism is the major branch, right? Every other
mm-hmm,
Christianity falls underneath the branch of Catholicism.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Mm.
And Rome, and like, and then I start diving into like the history and like timing it up with like what's now, and that's what kind of like opened everything up for me. So that's what brought me into the truth. Um,
mm,
and then immediately I stopped eating pork. I stopped eating seafood, or I stopped eating shellfish, bottom feeders.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Uh, I already didn't like catfish, but but and then also the lesson you taught on the Beatitudes. I think this was last
mm.
year.
The
That
what?
one, the Beatitudes.
Oh.
Yeah,
I know he
yeah,
know what I'm talking about, but
yeah.
that's one of the
Matthew
that's
chapter 5. Yeah.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the ones where it was like I've been taught that my whole life, but it never got broken down the way you broke it down because
All
nobody's
praise.
teaching it with the truth in them. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So that's
All
another thing
praises.
that really stuck with me for a long time, or that still sticks with me to this day.
They do.
Oh, praises. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Mm.
Anyone
Um,
else? I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry,
oh
Kai.
yeah, that's all. That's all.
I
That's
started
all.
hearing that Diddy, so I know. Yeah.
My kids are screaming in the back.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. That's actually good. I love a house where kids can be kids. Anybody else, when you talk about what is it about this way that when you hear it or heard it, it made it stick? Like I would say I'm proud of my kids. This was my experience in our house. And they heard, we were giving up things like, Christmas and Easter and all that other stuff. And, we wasn't going to eat pork. And I used to actually cook crab legs for my kids. Like, but when we found out we had to give it up, like there was, if there was resistance, my kids never showed it. They never was like, oh God, we can't eat no more crab. I mean, we joke about it now, but my kids were not fighting me as it concerned giving up certain things that were not in the scriptures. Um, any of you guys care to speak about what is it about this way that when you were taught it, it stuck?
I mean, like you said, I feel like our family is so used to change. So at first it was just like, okay, like it was like, well, we ain't doing this no more. Okay. Because I feel like so much change happened. So it was like, I'm used to change, change happens. But
Mm,
I think what stuck was when I made it personal, or when personal things were happening for me, or when I started to really seek the Most High for my own relationship. I think that's when it really
mm,
stuck, because I feel like I was going through the motions. I was going to church. I was living. I was like, I was being a Hebrew, but I don't think I was living like a Hebrew Israelite. So when I started living like a Hebrew Israelite, it was my own personal relationship. It was when the understanding of God wanting to get to know me, and then me wanting to get to know God. That's where
mm,
it was like, okay, I took it seriously. Because I was going through the motions. I was like, well, I don't eat pork and I don't eat crab legs, but I was still living any kind of way. It wasn't like I was
mm.
just, it wasn't like I was
Powerful.
just, yeah, it wasn't like I was
Mm,
just out here just professing Christ correctly. I was just doing it because that was what I was raised on, and that's all I knew. But when
mm-hmm,
I started living for him, and I started to really grasp the lifestyle, was because I made it personal. And
mm,
when I really heard God calling me and pulling me, I was like, oh, okay. Because it's one thing to be, it's like, it means something to be called by God, and to actually hear it. I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and answer this call, and really see what this is about. And that's why I do it.
mm.
No,
Oh,
yeah, I agree, Imani. Like to the point, like like you said, I hear the call, and I'm like, okay, like it's cool. Like you said, I didn't mind change. Where you have a lot of Israelites who seem like they like the culture. I'm like, at first, this is how I'm going about it. My first, few years of understanding. And I'm just going, like you said, I'm going with the flow. I'm not necessarily. I'm just doing, like you said, I'm doing the traditional practices of it. Like you said,
mm,
like looking good on the outside, but like not doing inside. But then when the Most High was like, nah, like, hey, you're chosen, and then it was almost like a palm to my face, and it's like, hey, like I'm trying to get your attention. And then once
mm-hmm,
he got my attention, I began to like, okay, like I need to, like Monty said, I need to start taking it more serious. I need to start making it more intimate, because he wants to have an intimate relationship with me. So I was like, okay, like I really need to look internally and start to work, you know, work what's inward to move forward.
mm.
So
Anyone else? Because you guys brought up, and I know we're kind of going along. I'm going to wrap up soon, but I can't let what Imani and Sean just brought up go without asking. You guys are so right. I know even for us who understood that we need to still follow Christ and we need to still walk according to the fruit of the Spirit, the character of the Most High, and Galatians 5:22 through 23. Because even mom, I got to the point where she would tell us enough of the culture. Let's get back to the spirit. And I appreciate mom for that because she slapped us as brothers back on the right track. Because you're right. We were excited. You find out you have this culture, you find out you have this heritage, this history, and it became more enamored with the culture, the heritage, the history, and getting away from the, as Imani said and Sean reiterated, the intimacy with the Father. And so, understanding the need for the intimacy with the Father and the relationship with the Father, how do you feel with that today in the area of discipleship, that helps you continue to walk out these lessons that we teach, this way that we walk, this way that we go, and be the example that you're called to be to your generation? If that makes sense what I asked you. Can I be heard?
Well, I was about to say before before somebody answered, I didn't hear the question.
Oh, okay. What I'm saying is, let me shorten it. What I'm saying is, I know when we first started, when we found out we were the people, you were right. Like the culture really mattered to us, but mom got us on the right track when you talk about the spirit or the intimacy that Monty was talking about, the character of the Most High. How do you feel like that continues to keep and shape you as it pertains to maintaining your relationship and being set apart and different in this day and time for the Most High, if that makes sense?
I feel like I feel like part of our culture is being set apart. Like
Mm-hmm.
we just kind of like we have to just accept that. I don't want to say have to accept that, but that's just the way that we have to live to
Mm-hmm.
achieve what the Father wants of us. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I think that with that, I think there's a lot of like opinions. Like when you look at other Hebrew Israelite congregations, they might run things a lot differently than we do, or they do
Mm-hmm.
things a lot different. And I think it's all kind of opinion based.
Mm-hmm.
And um, so I don't know. I'm kind of like on the like I feel like I need to do my own research and have my own opinion about exactly you know what exactly parts of the culture that we need to keep. But I think, like you said, the most important part is the spirit, and
Mm-hmm.
following what's in the book,
Yep.
because
Mm-hmm.
things change, times change, people change, the generation's different. We got smartphones, cell phones, and all kind of stuff that they didn't have back then. So it's inevitable that certain things like that within our culture are going to change. But as far as the way we dress and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
um, like you said, I mean, let's get to the spirit. Let's get to actually serving the Most High versus, whatever shirt you're wearing ain't going. You could be living however kind of way, or like even like Uncle Gene said a couple Passovers ago when he was
Mm-hmm.
like, it's the feast of unleavened bread, where it's like, yeah, you could throw all the bread out your home, but you still got yeast in your heart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's that kind of stuff that's like, I feel like some people have that opinion and they don't really get into the meat of what is factual, or like what's actually important. And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like within our congregation, we kind of get to what's important, but we do also have the guidance for things that might be a little bit more opinion based, or we'll go into scripture and actually like break it down on these things are accepted, these things are not. And we have the examples of you and Uncle Gene, Uncle Gerald, um and how we are to live about our lives. So like you were saying with the discipleship, you guys are our examples currently.
All praises. Anyone else want to add to? Anyone else? Okay, I don't see any more comments from you guys. I think you guys are gotten to the point where you're chilling, which is fine, which is fine. I love the fact that you guys, and I'll go ahead and wrap us up. I love the fact that you guys have brought out. I want to talk to you all after we get off here, so don't run off. But I love the fact that you guys brought up the need to not just be an Israelite outwardly, but be one inwardly. That the character of the Most High matters, and that's what Christ was trying to impose on the disciples during his time, which turned into the apostles who discipled other people, and their disciples discipled people, and that led down to us going from disciples ourselves to, in a sense, helping trying to lead you all as the next generation, so that when we pass on, you guys go from disciples to whatever roles you play, evangelists, pastors, teachers, in this way. But the goal is for you guys to learn how to walk this way in order for you guys to be leaders in the future, or to be lights during dark times. Because you're right, during your time of bad B's and YNs, the bottom line is somebody got to be different out there. And so I applaud you all and I celebrate you all for desiring to be different, for desiring to follow the way of discipleship. And still, despite the fact that you guys are growing, like my oldest is 27, you guys are in your mid, to late 20s, early 20s. young people, but yet you guys still will humbly submit to the teaching that we teach in order for you guys to be different in this wicked and evil time. And so I appreciate that, and I appreciate your journey. And so this is the purpose of this channel. This is the purpose of what it is that we're trying to do with the young and the fearless, where we want to present the people who are next and show that despite what they put out on TV, and despite the way that they try to show a world that is good and righteous at times, but as Brianna brought out earlier, those same people are miserable inside. Me and Monty was talking about one of her friends who was a major creator in the community, but yet there's a private struggle that she finds herself at times trying to reach out and encourage him in. He's open and vocal and transparent about his personal struggles, etc. And so that's what you all are called to do. That's what you all are called to fight. And so our job in your life is to help train you and prepare you for when we're not around, you guys be that light. You guys be that example, because you guys honestly don't have next. You guys are next. With that being said, we love you all. We thank you all for joining us. We hope that something was said to edify you, something that was said to edify your young people. If this comes across to somebody in the future, we hope that you learn something from these young people who are at a young age, young families, young single women, young single men that are trying to live for the Most High. We love you all. We encourage you all to continue to follow the way. Remember, young people, if you come across this, you don't have next, you are next. Shalom. Shalom.